project for Joshua Paiz for CS6004, Fall 2023 at George Washington University. This three-tier application is designed to help administer oral exit exams in a higher education setting and can support three kinds of users: administrators who can manage certain database functions, teachers who can manage classes and examinations, and students who can log in to see their scores and their feedback. So if we start with administrative users, we can see that they come to this portion of the website and they can do user account operations, exam question operations, and records ops. So if we go to a user account, we can see the current users in the table, their names and their user IDs. Passwords are, of course, not displayed here for security reasons, but we can remove a user by going down here and putting in the user ID that we want to remove. And if we re-render the table, we can see that user ID 14 was successfully removed. We can also add in a new student or a new user. So here we're going to make a student user, student 11, with a new password, make them a student, and we'll add that user. You can see it was successfully added. Redisplay the table, and there they are. User ID 15, username student 11. We can also then look at all of the exam questions in the database. So as new teachers add new questions, this list will grow, but we can also see the linkages between which questions are available for which classes, exams, and this can be modified here by the administrator. Right, so we can go ahead and remove that class linkage, and if we were to re-render this table, we would see that that link between question 100 and TED001 has indeed been removed. And then here we're assuming the influence of the Federal Education Records Act, so the administrator can't actually see the exams database table, but they can remove an entire exam record, or they can modify the score of one based on information from the teacher, right? So if we log into that new student account that we made, we'll see it has their name here. This is pulled from the database when they log in, and if they click get exam results, we'll see, well, they don't have an exam record yet, so they should either talk to their instructor or they should actually take their exam. So let's go ahead and log in as one of the teachers. Right, and we can see manage a class, manage exam questions, or start an exam. So if we look at manage a class, we'll see that they've been assigned EAP 1015 and TED001, and we can go ahead and add a student. So if we try to add by student username, we'll see that this form validates, and it says that you have to enter a valid integer for the student ID because we add by ID number. And then the same thing with the assign to class. Right, you can only assign to classes that you teach, and that information has to follow a particular format. So we'll add this student to EAP 1015, and we'll see there that the student was successfully added. We can also remove students from classes, so that modifies information in a link table for enrollment. We can also add test questions, and this will again validate to show if the information is being displayed improperly using scope.watch function and debounce so that it doesn't appear as regularly, that toast notification. So let's go ahead and add something to EAP 1015. What's the meaning of 42? We can add that question and we'll get a notification when it's been successfully added. We can also then go in and start an examination. So we start by collecting the class that the exam is for, because the system will begin by pulling 5 random questions that are appropriate to that class. So we click submit and it pulls those questions from the database and slots those in appropriately. We put in the student ID for who the exam is for and the maximum points possible. We can then leave feedback or no feedback and score the exam out of 5 using these drop downs. Just for the sake of expediency, I'm just going to leave the comments none, and the student's going to get 5 out of 5 on everything. Now, if you leave a question unanswered, students or teachers still need to leave none in the box, but they can leave the score unmarked, and that will change the score calculation on the browser side logic appropriately so that the score calculates properly. But we click calculate final score. This gives the teacher a chance to confirm or change any information, and then we can submit the exam. We'll get this window saying that it's successfully submitted, and then it'll take us back to the teacher's portal. Right now, if the student were to log in again, right, they would be able to get their exam results, see their score, and their feedback here. Now, I mentioned earlier that some of this form validation is happening on the browser side, and some of it is happening with debounces, so we don't see that toast notification too often. So here we can see that debounce using ng model options, and if we were to go into any of the forms that have validation, we would see excuse me, these scope.watch functions with their validation logic and what to display with the toast message, right? And then we can see the helper messages here for the show toast message and is integer string, or is the class in a valid format, or we're using a regular expression to make sure that it starts with 2 or 3 letters and 2 to 4 characters and 3 to 4 digits, right? A couple of other things to note about the code. The database makes use of a number of link tables so that we can have a user database, and we can have teachers assigned to multiple classes like we saw in the example, or we can have students enrolled in different courses, right? Or there's even link tables so that we know which questions can be asked for which classes. That way we don't have to unnecessarily worry about modifications to the underlying question database. So one of the things that we had to do was include this on-delete cascade part of the database creation, and then this allows us, if we make a change in the parent table, that change will percolate down to the child tables as well. Otherwise, you get an error when you try to make certain changes, right? Here we can see that validation with the demount, so it doesn't appear as often. Again, and then in the exam servlet, we can also see that there are numerous different kinds of transactions that can occur that will lead to a multi-stage transaction. So here, like when we start an